Once again, everybody, welcome to another roleplay review. This time, I'm doing two logs. It's not called Beretta Can't Catch a Break. That's just what I've decided to name this. But the two logs are going to be from Baka slash Beretta Kakuzi. It's escaping the sub basement, and not all justice is corrupt. And let me close one extra thing and bring this back. Hello, we're back again. Hope you guys have hydrated with your coffee, caffeinated your machines, because we're going to get into this. I decided to do these two logs together because they're both kind of short, and they are kind of like just fillers, to get us from one point to the next. So if you aren't familiar, the last time we met Baka, they were subjected to they were subjected to a drug called Mind Freak by this kid named Kyle Hunter. And for those of you that really don't know, Beretta Kazuki is Baka's, I guess, Earth name. And they are a high school student, about 16 years old, and one of their senior senpais is kind of bullying them. And yeah, they kind of hit him with this Mind Freak. There was a battle that took place. Baka thought that he killed him. He did not, but he was arrested shortly after because this all took place outside, or right in front of school, and outside and in front of everybody. So these are the two kind of follow-up logs. So escaping the sub basement. The synopsis is: after the events of the school in the previous log, Beretta awakens and recovers from the drugs in his system after injected with something called I'm Not Even Gonna Try. Although uninterested at the time, he is introduced to the idea that he is a Kaio for the first time in his life. This is a little joke from Kansu's running gist of his banishment to the sub basement in OOC, and he just hates coming up with log titles, so it was funny to them. Ha ha ha, ha 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 ha. And that's it's kind of it. He wakes up in this room, and while I picked a medical room for the title here, to me it's more like like a Resident Evil style, like barren white walls, no markers of any sort, and then there's just a bed, right? And he says months in kind of like a whisper, and at that the dark room lights all come up, and of course there's this Squid Game voice from an intercom, talking to him. And apparently he's not speaking in the galactic tongue, or our galactic basic. So I thought that was kind of interesting. There's a lot of little subtle hints at something that could be a much major plot point in this log, but they're very subtle. They're barely there. And one of them being, that they can't understand what he's saying at the beginning, and eventually this doctor walks in. And I had originally, if you guys will indulge me here, I had originally thought, and I might even use this for I might use this for the thumbnail, but this doctor is really giving me Kokonoe vibes, and I know you guys don't play fighting games, you have no idea who that person is, so I will show you once I can find it. But they were introduced to this doctor, Baka was, and this doctor is just kind of basically asking them simple stuff of like, hey, do you know where you are? Do you do you have any here it is, do you have any understanding of what happened to you? And while that is there, we can't see it. What? Okay, so that's a thing. Well, I'll sure. But yeah, she's just asking him like, are you ready to talk? And they ask like, I need verbal consent from you. And it's like, yes, please. and it's just this doctor pretty much, you know, doing a follow up, a kind of diagnosis of what's going on with him. How is he feeling? How is he doing? Things of that nature. And they kind of ask him like, "Hey, like, how old are you? You know, what is your, I don't want to say lineage. I guess we don't really have a way of asking, like, what racial species in the universe are you? What's your xenotype? I guess we could say that would be. And the whole time, Baka is just like, yeah, I killed this person, and lamenting that they killed this person, and they think that it's been months ago because they're so like messed up from this drug, and it's actually been like 2 days. But what I also thought was really cool was that we get a little insight into Mind Freak, and they said it's a substance manufactured with the Hydian race's Lycanrot. And so we're getting into like, this is like a Lycanrot type variant. I mean, there's been a lot of people, myself included, who have done like the experimental research into Lycanrot and to turn it into something else. Like in my case, they turn people kind of like more into werewolves, and in this one, it's like a drug that is boosting ki inside people, kind of really like Venom. And it could even be, you know, a Venom variant that we never heard of. And I thought, like, yeah, if that were true, that's a really cool callback to, God, I don't even know how long ago, like 8 or 9 years ago now, when we first did this versus refresh. But yeah, we find out that that's what this Mind Freak is, and we know that there's an injection that they can give to people that kind of helps them get over it, kind of like a Narcan kind of situation. So it has to have been around for a while for there to be any sort of like anti-venom, or, you know, like a I won't say a cure, but more of like a something to like keep the edge off and keep these people from being too wiped out by it. But what also I thought was really weird, and I'm hoping, like on the other day, I said on the mud, like, hey, what the hell is going on with this character? Because there's one part where, yeah, right here, they said, as if on cue, Beretta leapt from the edge of the bed and made his way for the door, only to be greeted by a man with a phase gun that met at his neck. And he put his hands up. So he, like, tries to run away and escape. And I'm just like, why? You know, like, that's what I'm like, what are you doing with this character? And I guess that's my question, right? And if there were a critique I would give Baka, I'm not saying that, you know, you have to do this, but I would explore what character you are really trying to write here. Because so far, and even in the next log where not all justice is corrupt, it's a lot of punishment. Like, you are really punishing this character in the fact that, you know, like, they feel very guilty in this log that they may have killed Kyle. And honestly, they don't even get that relief until the next log. So the whole time, he just is like, Janet, my love interest slash, I think maybe also orphan adopted sister. I don't really know what that dynamic is. I would have to go back and read it. But like, she has blown him off, and the whole school is kind of looking at him like, yeah, you're this drug dealer who got Mr. Byakko arrested and taken away. So like, Koshoro's disappearance is even being put on him. And then, you know, Kyle being a bully, there's always that one kid who you just don't like in high school, but like, putting him on this drug, and now like the court system is coming after him. And I just don't see the reason why he would even attempt to try to run away in this situation. I just didn't get it. It seemed out of character, unless you were making a turn of like, yeah, maybe this kid is a bad kid, or I don't know, like, I guess a escape, like fight or flight, would hit. But if I were to give you a bit of advice, like, explore that. Like, tell us that, like, yeah, he panicked so bad that he didn't know what to do, so he thought, I'll just make a run for it. Like, I don't even know where I am. They do tell him that eventually he's just in a sub basement of the Vitae. I think he's in Vitae City PD, but he's basically under the police station that was there. So yeah, I was just kind of confused, but it's like, all right, he's got his medical treatment. We got the follow up of like, okay, it takes about 2 days for this stuff to get out of his system. You know, I still would say maybe there's lingering effects to Mind Freak. But that's pretty much it. And then they just get this big, like, inconclusive, like, they don't really know what he is, but the doctor kind of, the doctor kind of, like, assumes based on what is inconclusive, based on, like, the data that isn't there, that they might be a Kaio. And we'll see if that has any importance later on. But then the next one is Not All Justice is Corrupt. And it basically is just Baka, Janet is there, the judge is there, and the judge has like 2 different quotation colors. I don't know why that is. Maybe supposed to be like red, white, and blue. Like maybe that's it. Maybe I just figured that out now. And then Kyle's lawyer. The synopsis for this one is Janet and Baka apologize to one another over the events, and Janet helps Baka not look like a bum for his court hearing. He has a rough time in court hearing and getting what happened conveyed due to legal blockades. And his legal punishment, so we're just going to skip to the end. This is what happens to him after attempted murder, is 120 hours of community service before the age of 18, a cease order to be enforced by the school, barring him and Kyle from interacting with one another or for the remainder of the school year. Possibly an undefined action from the state regarding his living status with the orphanage. Now, again, he's 16 years old. They're basically telling him he's got to work 120 hours or about 3 weeks of community service, and he can't hang out with Kyle. I'm going to say right off rip, that is a very light sentencing for what happened here, right? And I'm not criticizing it because I don't think that we should, like CSI or NCIS this and it becomes a court drama. I don't think that is the case. I did, excuse me, I did kind of get this theory that, like, man, if this becomes like a where did Mind Freak come from? Where did this drug start? Who's really pushing it to the streets? Then it's time for old Bangers and Mash to come on out. I'm just saying, this is kind of right up their alley. I did kind of see that. So if we want to go there, we have that possibility that's still out there. But back to this log. So yeah, it's 2 days that have passed after the MVPD headquarters incident. He's now in a regular facility. He's now in a regular jail. And he's been kind of like, doing this little push up and sit up thing. And then he basically has his court hearing. And surprisingly, like, this is a small detail, right? Like, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, I don't know much about the legal system, but Kyle, who is still hospitalized, this is where Baka finds out that he's still alive, has a lawyer that's representing him, but nobody, not even from the state, is representing Baka. And this has like a weird, like, this is not only the pre-trial, but this is also like kind of the trial and the hearing, but it's all decided by the judge. So it kind of tells me that since he's a minor, they're not really treating this to like a jury or anything like that. They're really trying to keep this almost in civil court, to where, it's like it's the person who is filing the suit can show up and they can have legal representation. Or this is really just one of those cases where there would be a lawyer and a judge, and they would just kind of go through the proceedings together, unless somebody else had a hearing. Sorry, we're getting into actual court stuff. But that's the kind of hearing that we have here. And through it, I mean, they basically just kind of tell him that, like, you can't really submit the social media post because there's really no proof. It's social media. There's no proof that he posted this. And it was this other weird thing where, like, because he's not here, you also can't, Galactic Code, you cannot present formal statement in a courtroom that includes accusation to something to another, involved in the case, unless that individual is present directly to contest. He is not here today, so we cannot allow basically for Baca to say what happened. And that's where I got a little confused of like, well, you brought him here to tell him what happened. Clearly there was an altercation with Baca and this other person, but now we can't really mention this other person. And I think that's the route that the writer took to basically just be like, all right, then you are guilty, but you're not guilty enough to where we should punish you the way we should, but we have to punish you some way. I do like that the judge was like, yeah, you're 16, he's 18. I'm not going to ruin their lives. Although, again, like, choked the shit out of him. And I do believe, like, blew an energy blast into his chest. So, the only thing I would say for this, and I am guilty of it because I am a roleplay admin, I think you should have had an admin play the judge. Maybe handed them, like, a side script of, like, these are the beats that I need. But ultimately just let them kind of play it out and just see how playing off of another person would have done here. I think it doesn't, again, these two logs, you're right, I don't need to do video reviews on them because there's not a lot that really happens, but it is the continuation of his story. And I just wanted to highlight it, right? Like, you're putting in the work. There's definitely good stuff in here, right? But for these, it's like, yeah, there's just a little bit of things when I read them. I'm like, okay, we can talk about this, and put myself in as the person who read it. Put my feelings into it. But good job. The next one I do believe is titled "The Tooth Fairy Stole My Rock," and I have no idea what this is going to be. No idea. It's very short, but yeah, this will be interesting, I guess. So I'll catch you guys next time when we do the rest of Baca's story. Have a good one.